Welcome everyone to the Chicago Football Connection podcast. I'm your host, Steve Letizia. Follow me on Twitter at CFC Bears. Joined by my co-host, as always, Luke O'Grady. Follow him on Twitter at Luke O'Grady. And we were planning on doing a live post game show,
As we always
said,
do.
as we always do. But we thought that was a game that was best served to let sit for a few days. We'll watch the tape again, watch it again, and kind of see what was going on, because obviously it was not the result that we wanted. It was really, really bad, basically.
It was pretty much the opposite.
It was pretty much whatever could go wrong went wrong. A lot more questions, I feel like, coming out of this game than answers.
Yeah, it's a great way to put it.
So, yeah. And, I don't like to overreact to week one, because if you look at the NFL landscape, the offense was down in general across the NFL. There were very good teams like the Bengals, who offense looked terrible as well. So you never want to overreact to 1 week. But I think when you go through all offseason with that hype and that hope for the offense, and then they look like that, it's not that they look, you had a few weaknesses here and there. It was kind of everyone looked bad. Play calling was bad. Justin Fields was bad. Offensive line was bad. Or at least some of the offensive line were bad. Wide receivers weren't getting open. Everything went wrong. So, Luke, I need you to just lead this off. Where do you want to start with this? There's so many areas. What are your thoughts? Where's your headspace at?
Well, I would say that it's smart that we let it sit for a little while, because I don't think that anybody that is like a legitimate Bears fan had anything good to say after that one. It was pretty hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel, and having some time to look back on it and really, like, to quote our favorite former coach, look at the whys behind what happened. It didn't get a whole lot better. Some things in my initial review weren't correct, and then there were other things that I kind of stumbled upon that I think a lot of people have kind of seen that were a little bit more troubling. I'll say this: I don't losing week one isn't the end of the world. We were able to lose week one. I guess it was the manner in which we did it,
right?
And that there wasn't really much to hang your hat on.
Yeah,
the offensive line looked bad, except, well, in places. Justin Fields looked bad in places. The defense looked bad in places. We didn't really escape injury free, and it all happened against the Packers. It was bad. I mean, I will say 2018 I was at that game, week one. I was at the game, and it was that I was certain was one of the worst losses I had ever seen, especially considering we were coming right off the hype of the Khalil Mack thing, and the team was like shaping up to be really good. But that loss happened in week one, and the team still was really good. We ended up going 12-4, and it did kind of come together. The problem with this one is, like, for a half in that game, like, you saw it. Like, you saw what was going to be and what was going to make the Bears good this year. And, man, there just wasn't a whole lot there wasn't a whole lot of positives. It didn't look great. Going into the season, I wrote a piece about having Justin Fields taking the easy stuff, because the deeper and the intermediate stuff is the stuff that he's naturally going to be able to do, and then he'll be able to take them when they come if he forced the defense to play the easy stuff. And they came open in this game, and he still didn't hit them. It looks like everybody was thinking way too much and was feeling the pressure of that game, and none of the people, being how young this team is, none of the people on the Bears have really ever been part of a winning culture in the NFL, or part of a sustained winning culture. So Jaquan Brisker said it in his press conference today, or maybe it was yesterday, that maybe they were a little bit too hyped in practice and really needed to realize that, despite how good you feel, like, it's going to take a lot more than that to be successful week in and week out. So hopefully, these guys got a kick in the mouth. The really annoying thing is that everybody went and said all the right things in the press conference afterwards. And it's like, what? I don't care what you say.
Yeah. You summed it up pretty well. Like, I don't, we're 0-1. I don't care about that. Like, a loss, even if it's the Packers, I know you want to beat the Packers, but, like, if you would tell me that the Bears are going to start 0-1 this year, I'd be like, okay, that's fine. It was the way they lost the game, like, I went into the season knowing or thinking they're probably not making the playoffs, and they're probably a 6, 7, 8 win team. So, but they played way worse than that. And the offense and I think Justin Fields, this is year 3. He needed to take a next step, and he clearly did not do that in the game. Like you said, when I watched it, I was really angry about the play calling. Why aren't we taking more shots downfield? Watching the game again, and then watching the All-22. They tried to take shots downfield. They had opportunities open downfield, and Justin Fields just wasn't pulling the trigger and checking down a little bit too early, scrambling too early, stuff like that. So it was just frustrating how they lost and what was going on. I'm not saying that the play calling was perfect, because there were definitely times when the play calling was not perfect.
It was not good.
It was not good. Just not good. But there were guys getting open, and they're just not hitting them. And the defense, I expected the defense to be bad, so I don't even care. Like, the defense could be bad, that's fine. The offense being bad is something that they can't have. If the offense is not above average, then they're not going to win 6 games this year. So the defense, I'm not even concerned about that. It is what it is. I expect them to be bad. I don't think this is their window. And you bring up the 2019 team. I think that game to me was still harder and harder to watch, because we had so much hype, and that was we went into 29 thinking we have a chance to win a Super Bowl. No one thought the Bears are going to win the Super Bowl this year.
No.
So it might be a step back, but I still think it's not as bad as that one.
No, I mean, this one has a similar sting, just in that I was so sure that we were going to see a very, very poised and in control of the offense Justin Fields. And despite the fact that I thought that 2019 team could win the Super Bowl, I was never a really big Mitch Trubisky believer. The reason this one kind of hurt is because I really do believe in Justin Fields, and I still do, but it's starting to be worrisome, because, I mean, there were plays when, there were people open, and it's if you knowing why this play is installed in the playbook, where this ball is supposed to go if they're open, and then that the main hit comes open and the ball's not there, or the ball's late, and it's oh man, that's really, really disheartening.
Yeah, I think we have a good example of it here, and this has been on Twitter before, but just to kind of go over it, this is obviously one of the plays you're talking about. So we have a flood concept right there, and DJ Moore, and he just.
I mean, it's right there. It's on time. It's blocked well.
Yeah. It's blocked well. Oops, I don't know what's opening there, but yeah, you have DJ Moore at the bottom running a flood route. You have Darnell Mooney running the clear.
Bang.
So the
right
cornerback
there,
clears
right there.
23 Alexander. Just It's the throwing with anticipation that really you don't see from Fields, and we haven't seen that even when he was playing well last year. We didn't see those anticipatory throws. So going into this year, okay, you got to start hitting those. I mean, this guy's wide open. DJ Moore is wide open on this play.
Yeah, the ball should be out. As open as it gets in the NFL.
The ball should be out well before he's out of his break, and he's already checking down. And you can't blame the protection on this play. I mean, the protection overall wasn't great if we look at it from the other angle. Even the interior kind of holds up today. He had plenty of time, and he just went to his check down too soon. So it's stuff like that where just not making those anticipatory throws. And that's something a quarterback should be making in year 3. And still, we have not seen, we had a lot of hope for Justin Fields because he played really well last year at times. But even those times, he was hitting guys who were open, which is good, but he wasn't throwing guys open, which we really haven't seen a lot of. So it's tough to say. And I don't want to, bury on Justin Fields, because I think he can play better than what he showed on Sunday. But the thing is, he has to play significantly better to make me think that he's the guy, and not just he could play slightly better and become a capable NFL quarterback, but he has to play significantly better to be a guy who you're going to win a Super Bowl with.
Yeah, agreed. I will say that one of the things that I think kind of came out of this is the day of, I thought that the Bears pass blocked terribly, and then I went back and watched it. I thought they pass blocked all right. I think some people played bad, some people played better than I thought. I suppose that's probably always the nature of the beast. But something I have noticed, and I think is pretty telling with how people's opinion on offensive line play as a whole varies, is that nobody did a good job with their metrics or their ratings, encapsulating the way that the Bears offensive line plays. it was so much black and white. Like there were people saying that we had no missed pass block assignments, and then people saying that like we were some of the worst. And then on an individual basis, people were saying that like, Darnell Wright had his welcome to the NFL moment, and then other people were saying he played great, and people saying that Braxton Jones hurt the team, and other people saying he was our best lineman. All this to say, likely our best lineman wasn't even in the game. But I will say, if you're feeling that impending doom about the offense, I would take a second and go rewatch it yourself. The truth is probably somewhere in between all the stuff you're hearing. I would say that I honestly think that a really, really good week 2 would go a long way to reconcile some of the stuff I've been worried about. I could understand if I wrote this that there's a chance that Justin Fields probably felt more pressure before that game than he has in any game in his professional career. Maybe not the college championship, but definitely not more than any in his NFL career.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point in his career, you'd hope that he'd be able to rise to the occasion. But you can understand if maybe it was hard for him to. You can understand if maybe it wasn't his best performance, and it wasn't.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really matter how much they say, we're going to get this right, or that wasn't us in the post game press conference. Eventually, we have to start seeing it.
Right. I mean, it's year 3. You expect a jump in year 3, and these aren't difficult concepts. Like any idiot can see, this stuff. Like, including myself, I'm an idiot. Like, it's very simple stuff. Like, it's not like they're running complex stuff. And I do think with the offensive line, yeah, it was interesting because a lot of the things that I thought watching it live were dispelled when I watched the play calling being one of them. I thought the play calling was a little bit better. The offensive line, at least the tackles, played a lot better than I thought they did. Braxton Jones, I thought pass blocked really well. He had a few penalties, which definitely hurt the team. But from a pass blocking standpoint, it was very encouraging to see. If we're going to talk about some positive, Darnell Wright had some reps that were bad, but he also had some reps that were really good. That's just kind of what you expect from a rookie right tackle. And it's kind of, what we were talking about all offseason. We're like, okay, we drafted a right tackle at 10. The offensive line is fixed. No, he's going to have his rookie moments, and he did. But, you're really looking with Darnell Wright next year of him being really that stalwart on the right side that you don't have to worry about. Like, he's going to take his rookie lumps, but I think overall he played well. Some encouraging signs. The interior of the offensive line, however, still looked pretty bad. Nate Davis didn't look good pass blocking. Cody Whitehair retired 4 years ago in my eyes. Like, he's just not good anymore. Lucas Patrick, like, we know he's not good, and he wasn't supposed to be the starter there, but he looked bad too. It's those 3 guys are. I think Nate Davis played better as the game went on. I'll say he had some really rough moments earlier. I wish he would have been practicing. Maybe he could have avoided that. I still think he's going to be at least a solid guard. Probably not spectacular, but he's going to be fine. But yeah, and hopefully we get Tevin Jenkins back in a few weeks, but Whitehair is still going to be a problem at center. Like, I just don't understand how you went into the season with Cody Whitehair as your center, pretty much unquestioned. Like, that was the plan from the beginning of the offseason, was Cody Whitehair. So it's just weird. I think more and more about the offseason, and I think more and more about the team building aspect of this team and my balls. And I'm starting to think that they really don't have any goals of winning this year. Like, I think they're still thinking 2-3 years ahead, and like a long rebuild, which maybe is the right thing to do, but it is frustrating as a fan. But I also think you can surround your team with talent and still have your window be a couple of years down the road. You don't have to do one or the other. You don't have to. You can only tank for so long. You tanked last year, sure, you get the first round pick. This year, you start building your team, and you can still sign guys and to fill holes while building the guys behind them. And I just feel like they didn't do that, so it's frustrating.
No, I agree. I mean, I left that game and there was so much grass is always greener kind of thoughts about moves that we didn't make and how the team could have looked. There were so many offensive tackles that would have been and like offensive linemen that would have been like great depth and great competition pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Man, there were so many good pass rushers that were in their first game with a new team on these solo deals that we could have added as well. I mean, I guess we did the Yannick Ngakoue too, but I mean, we still have money. Like, these were contracts that I would have preferred Poles, be willing to just risk and kick money down the road till next year kind of thing.
Yeah.
But to your point, like looking at it now and realizing how completely uncompetitive they are at those positions, it really does make you think that like maybe they were saying, hey, like if Fields can carry this team, he'll prove he's the guy, but we don't want to give up resources if we have to try and reinvest in another guy next year.
Hmm.
Which is what it is. I think this all goes to say, and I think you would agree, the real villain of Week 1 was Alan Williams.
Yes. Yeah, if we're talking about the defense for sure. I mean, the defensive play call, but I also don't think Alan. Like, I agree with you, but I don't think Alan Williams is working with a whole lot defensively. Like our defensive line just like playmaker. We have no playmakers on the defensive line whatsoever.
Exactly. How
And
do we
like,
blitz so little?
but okay, that's a good point. That is a good point. If you have to scheme to your strengths and hide your weaknesses is the whole point of a defensive coordinator. So that's a very good point. If you know you can't get pressure with 4, why are you rushing 4 every single play? Send a
Seriously.
blitz, do something. I don't know, do something.
Manufacture some pressure because you're playing
Right.
against someone in their first legitimate start as the leader of a team. And we have defensive backs like Kyler Gordon and like Eddie Jackson that are really instinctful. And if you can make it so that they're having to only play coverage and maybe hide their coverage for a split second and then go for only about 2 seconds versus 3.5 and 4 seconds, it's a lot different.
Yeah.
You can think, hey, I'm going to drop more people into pass coverage and rush 4 and maybe that'll offset how little pressure we're able to get. But I've talked about this before, but pass rush and coverage are very, very correlated, obviously. But like,
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing that you can like. You can hide horrible coverage with great pass rush because if you can get home before they can, develop a passing route, there's nothing they can do about it. You can't like as good as you can cover if you never get home. You can't cover until the cows come home. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
You need to be able to somehow generate pressure. And if you know, and you had to know, Alan Williams, that you couldn't get it with just 4, there had to be
Yeah.
more blitz packages. And I know in the second half they started to do it more, but we blitzed at one of the lowest rates in the league in Week 1, and I think it showed.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, unless you have 3 prime Darrelle Revises out there, like
Seriously.
you have 2 seconds to cover. Like your cornerbacks, if they cover a guy for 2.5 seconds, like that's good, and you got to hope you get some pressure in that time. But if you're asking guys, cornerbacks to cover for 3, 4, 5 seconds, it doesn't matter who's out there. You're gonna get picked apart. And we knew that. We know that coming in. Like we talked all offseason, like pass rush is gonna be an issue. It just is what it is. And I do think you're right. They could have come up with something to scheme some guys open on stunts, twists, bring a nickel corner on a blitz, something like that. I don't know. They could have done something, and they just were just continuously blitzing 4 down defensive linemen, and nothing was working. But at the same time, Yannick Ngakoue, you got paid a lot of money. You're a pass rusher. Like that is what you do, and you did absolutely nothing.
I guess, he had a sack.
Yeah, he had a sack, but it kind of fell into a sack, right? It's not like he beat his guy quick and got to the quarterback. Right. That was a coverage sack essentially.
No, it's certainly hurt to see Jalen Carter lead all NFL players in pressures this week.
Yeah, I still stand by that decision though. I don't know.
I understand
Jalen Carter,
but
yeah.
If we agree that maybe they were saying, hey, we don't need to be winners this year, like theoretically, if they were in a kind of like willing to leverage a 2023 mode, then that's a little bit because I think the more pressing need was offensive line, but I don't think anybody would argue the better player was Jalen Carter. So
for sure,
it hurt to see. I guess obviously, I actually do think Darnell Wright played well, but the biggest issue on our team in that game by far, and the reason Jordan Love looks so good, despite the fact that I'm sure he's not that good, was the fact that we never got home.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing: no one passed on Jalen Carter because they thought he was a bad football player. The Bears, Ryan Poles did not say, Jalen Carter's not that good. We're going to go with someone else. It was all off the field stuff. So
no, for sure,
him being really good is not a surprise, and I'm sure it's not a surprise to Ryan Poles and company. So
or the Seahawks or
all those teams that passed on. It wasn't just the Bears. Yeah. but yeah, it is what it is.
We so we go to Tampa Bay
Yep.
this week.
Go to Tampa Bay this week, which I think is a tough matchup because I looked at the schedule after week one. I saw Tampa Bay, and I was like, okay, Tampa Bay is a bit a beatable team. Like they don't have Tom Brady anymore. But then I was thinking about Vita Vea going up against Lucas Patrick, and I immediately got incredibly scared.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But yeah, I think it still is a winnable game. Like I said, Justin Fields is going to play better this year. The
Yep.
offense is going to play better. The defense can only play better. Maybe they come up with something. So I do think they're not going to be blown out of a lot of games. We saw it last year. Even like when they lost 14 games, whatever they lost last year, they were only had a few games that they weren't really in, and I think that's going to continue. So we'll see. A bounce back would be really nice. A nice win. Is that at home or on the road? I can't remember.
I think we go to Raymond James.
Okay, so a nice win on the road. Tampa Bay did beat Minnesota last year, so they're not
Yep.
a pushover, but I do still think it's a winnable game.
There's a really cool. There's a 1,000 advanced analytic metrics that you can look at these days, but there's a really cool one, and maybe we'll I'll retweet it or something, so you can check my Twitter after this if you're watching. But
Yeah.
there's a metric that I wish I could remember the name of the company because they're pretty cool, but it's like expected points per drive or expected drive points like earned basically. And it's basically how the play ended up versus how the play was executed. So like if there were open players and Justin Fields missed them and he had a pocket, like that'll be factored in kind of thing. Like one player, took off like good yards or good points versus like how the whole team executed.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what their formula is, but of week one, there were two teams that lost where their scoring or their expected drive earned would suggest that if they did it over 100 times, the other teams would have won. And they had the Bears as one of the teams that probably did perform better than the Packers, and they had the Vikings as a team that probably did perform better than the Bucks. So if you're looking for some hope going into next week, it does look like the Bucks maybe punched a little bit above their weight class, and the Bears executed about as poorly as they could have.
Yeah, that is an interesting stat. I think I might have seen that, but definitely retweet that, get that on a timeline because that'll be interesting. Not to crush your hopes, but and just kind of to play devil's advocate, I wonder how much the Bears looking good in that is because we were playing in garbage time. I don't know. I don't know how that.
No, I think it's factored out as well. I think garbage time scoring is factored out.
Oh, okay, then that's great. So,
which is great because we were in garbage time basically halfway through the third.
Yeah, right. We were in garbage time for a quarter and a half. So
yeah,
hopefully we don't have that much garbage time anymore. I don't know about you, but I was watching the game with some friends, and a couple of my friends are Packers fans, so that was just
brutal.
I had one friend who was a Bears fan, and he had a kid, and she had to go home and take a nap, and I was like, "Don't leave me. I need someone.
I could go take a nap."
Yeah, right. I need a nap. Yeah. But
I was watching it. I was watching it with an impartial friend, and we were at my house, and we had Red Zone on the TV, and I was like, as long as we're at my house and this Bears game day, we'll be listening to the Bears game. And second half started, and I was like, let's just turn on the sound of Red Zone.
Red Zone it is. Yeah.
I almost don't even need to hear Greg Olsen tell me about, Greg Olsen just loves the Bears, is so kind to us, and sometimes it's like, just tell us we suck, Greg.
Yeah. Yeah, and then the Altitude 22 came out the next day. I started watching it, and I usually share a lot of clips after games, and I just was like, this is just all bad. I don't have any good clips to share. I'm not just I was looking at my timeline, and there was a million videos of Justin Fields going up. I was like, I don't need to post all these, so I just stopped watching it. And I was like, I don't need to do this anymore.
I know.
So hopefully this week it's a lot more fun to rewatch the game, and I'll post more videos and stuff. But we'll see.
If you had to give your standard Bears fan some silver linings for this week, or some stuff to maybe put a little bit of hopium in their sails,
okay,
just knowing that there's not a whole lot that looks great at the moment, what would you tell them?
I think there were a couple positives. The two tackles, two young bookend tackles, is something the Bears have never really had, and that's a potential thing. Still
They
very
look
early,
good.
just early week, but a lot of promising things, especially pass blocking from Baxter Jones. A lot of positives, some negatives, some darn all right, but overall a good first week for a rookie top 10
Agreed.
pick. I think Roshan Johnson is looked
Agreed.
really good. Pass catching, blocking, pass blocking. It's some good pass blocks too. Everything kind of as advertised, which is nice. I mean, I wish the Bears could draft quarterbacks like they could draft running backs. It just seems like we always get a running back in the fourth round who's really
amazing.
good. And
Jordan
it's just
Howard,
like,
Garrett Cohen,
yeah,
David
right.
Montgomery, Roshan Johnson,
Roshan Johnson. Just like the list keeps
Khalil
going. So
Herbert.
Khalil Herbert, all these guys. But I do think he looked really good. And the other positive is that it's only up from here. I don't think it could be much worse
Great way to look at it.
than Sunday. The offense has to be better. The defense might not be better, but who cares? It's defense. Let's just get through the year and let's have a how am I trying to say this? Let's get a definitive review of Justin Fields' performance.
Totally.
That's all I want. I want them to put him in position to succeed. I want them to do more rollouts. They threw a lot from the pocket, which I think they want to get to, but we know Justin Fields plays well on the run. Like, get him in a position to succeed. And if he fails, fine. It is what it is. I hope that doesn't happen, but we have 2 first-round picks in a what appears to be a very strong QB class to get a new guy in. But I want to know for sure. If you're just trying to hide him by throwing screens, then we'll never know. So that's what I want to see. Question for you, I guess, okay, so I don't remember what we had as our roster, like a win-loss prediction preseason. Do you remember?
I do.
It was high.
Feels ridiculous now.
It was high. I think it was
I think I had 9 games.
I
might have even had 10.
8, 9. Okay. Where are you now? Where do you think the Bears finished? I know I started this podcast with saying no overreactions after week 1, but I want you to overreact. What do we
I think I think we have a little bit more clarity as opposed to like how competitive our roster is versus another NFL roster. So I think it wouldn't be terrible to try and reevaluate it. When I first picked 10 wins, I had the Packers penciled as a win. So it's at least 9 now.
Right. And a lot of people had the Bears winning 10 games, so it's not just you. And a lot of people did.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what, if we don't see a very drastic improvement from Justin Fields, it could snowball. And honestly, he might not, if he doesn't start taking the stuff that's in front of him, and honestly, just like, it looks like he's just thinking way too much. Yeah. Just like, it's crazy to say, but he played better with Nagy. I mean, you can say what you will about Nagy, but at least he had Justin Fields out there like playing freely. But if we can see, a little bit of improvement or like at least a movement toward the player that we think Justin Fields can be. Now, granted, last year the Bears came out and didn't look like they have an identity on offense for 4 or 5 weeks and it clicked. So if there's a chance that could happen a little sooner, I still think there's an opportunity for this team to be a middle of the road to maybe a little bit worse than that defense and a above average offense, and that and a bad NFC can win you 6 or 7 games. I still think that the Bears can absolutely win 7 or 8 games. I just think
I think that's fair. I think that's probably on the high end though. But
I was going to say I think that could be drastically different following our game this weekend in Tampa Bay. If this game if there's a chance that it ends up being like the Tampa Bay game from 2018 and everything clicks and they look like the best team in the world, then like I think all the things are still true. And you can do hey, Joe Burrow looked bad in week 1 and Lamar Jackson looked bad in week 1. But if the team doesn't look great, I think it's more you're more inclined to say, those teams might have looked bad in week 1, but I don't know the last time that Justin Fields looked really good. And that's a little worrisome.
Right. I think this week will be very telling. If, like you said, if they come out and they look amazing, then it's like, okay, last week was a fluke. If they come out and look the same or maybe even just like slightly better, like not a huge improvement, but maybe a little bit better. I think that this is just who the Bears are. So
If the
uh,
Bears can slightly improve, if they can like start to build some momentum on offense and they win the game, then like, I am a believer in momentum in sports. And then it's like kind of
sure,
that thing where if they start to believe in themselves and they start to execute, and we can see Justin Fields like take that deep breath that he so badly needs right now, then who knows? You go and win in Tampa Bay, and who knows? But if you don't win in Tampa Bay this week, fire it into the sun, man. Like seriously, I don't know what to say.
yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, I mean, I wouldn't say win because if you do lose, but like your offense really clicks and you put
Okay.
up 30
Yep.
points and the defense just gives up 35, that's different because then it's like, okay, we knew the defense was bad. We're still kind of playing for next year, but at least there's hope. And it's like, okay, a few more pieces, two first round picks, a few more pieces in free agency, and we might have something next year. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, a loss or just a poor performance in general, yeah, would be pretty devastating. And then I think it would be almost time to blow it all up. I don't know what that would look like because it's not like you have a lot of like pieces to trade. But yeah, at that point, I'm going to be start scouting quarterbacks for the next year.
No,
I,
I mean
I already
totally.
started looking at draft guys this week because I couldn't watch the Bears game again. So I was like, let's see what we got on the offensive line.
It's sad to say. It is sad to say because I think we all, as Bears fans, really felt like, there's a chance that this Justin Fields guy could be the guy that's different. And I think everybody that, is actually in the know and watches football and gets it said, hey, like he looks the part at Ohio State. And if we never get that quarterback, or if he comes out next week and he still looks like, a different NFL version of that, then you kind of are in tank mode. You got to think,
Yeah,
hey, like, maybe he isn't it. And we're in a very, very unique position where we have some capital to make a play on a player that could change our franchise if Justin Fields isn't the guy. And as much as I
right.
think everybody in the building wants Justin Fields to be the guy, it would be cavalier to give him too much time when if he isn't the guy, like, you kind of need to
Yeah,
do the sunk cost thing and move on as fast as you can.
right. And it's going to be a difficult situation because I tweeted this kind of after the game, but like he needs to play significantly better for me to not consider a quarterback with one of
Seriously.
our first round picks. If he gets better and gets like I mean getting better right after that game is getting to average. And if he plays average for the rest of the year, does that stop you from drafting a quarterback? I don't know. I don't think
Yeah,
so.
it's a
Especially
great point. It's something that the
I
Bears,
mean,
as a Bears fan, you're going to be watching the rest of the year. What if he kind of puts it together? The Bears win 7 or 8 games, and he gives you the Daniel Jones last year, where you're like, okay, maybe that was his best put together year. Like, is that enough?
I I don't think so, only because of this upcoming quarterback class. If you have a shot, if that's what you get, and you have a shot at Caleb Williams, I think you take Caleb Williams.
The real crazy
Uh,
thing is what happens if the Panthers actually go and win 2 or 3 games, and you end up with the second or first overall pick? But at
right,
that point, it's almost like, Justin Fields would kind of have to blow the doors off the place for us to
right.
not say, hey, Drake May or Caleb Williams is right there.
Shadur Sanders too, like a lot of guys,
JJ
like
McCarthy has looked really good.
a lot of guys. It looks like a pretty good quarterback class. So yeah, he has to get significantly better for me to not do that. I still think he has that in him.
I do
I'll say
too.
that.
And but here's what I will say, not to put too much pressure on him, because not like Luke O'Grady up in Canada can put any pressure on Justin Fields, but not to put
Sorry, Justin Fields. When you're like when you listen to this later, like not to put too much pressure on you, but
I still believe in you, but I will say this. I wrote about this last week. Moments matter as a quarterback. The game against Green Bay, that mattered, and him coming out the way that he did, it's why everybody is so worried. It's why some people that on Twitter that I follow, because they're a bit of a grand optimist. It's why even them are starting to say, "Hey, it's looking like rain."
hmm,
If Justin Fields goes out and does it again against the Buccaneers, it's too much. The people in the building have to know that after what they just did against Green Bay, they can't put it up again. They can't put up a stinker like that again. They just can't.
yeah,
You need to rebound here. And if they don't rebound here, I'll pretty much be waving the white flag with Justin Fields. And that's
yeah,
crazy because, I don't usually go out. My whole life, I haven't really done like the quarterback thing just because of how much the Bears have moved on from them. I had a Cutler jersey because we had him. Never did Trubisky. Never did anyone else in between. I got a Fields jersey the day we drafted him. I was certain he was the guy. He was my quarterback 2 in the class. I totally believed in him.
Mm-hmm.
If he comes out and we put up another stinker against the Bucks, I can't keep going to bat for him anymore. And I
Yeah.
can't even keep convincing myself because I am the grand optimist. And like even when things are bad, I kind of will be able to find a silver lining. I think I'll start to be on the way out if the Bears don't find a way to impress us against the Bucks this week. The Bucks gave up
I
like
think so too.
400 passing yards last week.
Yeah. Yeah.
If
They don't have. I mean, their defense isn't what it was like a few years ago, and I think with Fields, you kind of mentioned earlier, overthinking, and I think that's exactly what was happening. Like he had guys open upfield as we show, and he was just a tick too late. He had that little hitch, like he wants to throw it,
Seriously.
but then decides to just take off and run. I want to see him just throw. Don't be afraid to make a mistake. If you throw a pick, whatever. Like it is what it is. Throw a pick, but like I'd rather him throw a pick trying to be aggressive than checking down or taking a sack. I do want him to check down from time to time, but there are situations when you can't check down, when you got to just take with check down on first down. But when you're on third and long, like check down doesn't do a whole lot. Try and make a play. Like so, I just want him to stop thinking so much. Go out there and just do what you did in college, and target DJ Moore a lot more. Really trust DJ Moore because he's getting open. Trust him to kind of to be where he needs to be, and that's what I want to see. And I think if he does that, then he'll play well enough for the Bears to win.
Yeah, I think that's kind of an underrated aspect of it as well. If you go back and look at just routes run and the separation that he was creating, DJ Moore played great.
Mm-hmm.
DJ Moore really did look good. I think he had one of the better open scores in the league after week 1. I thought when he had the ball in his hand, he looked good. Him getting 2 targets is just like
can't happen. I mean,
coaching malpractice.
Yeah. Well, we saw that one play. DJ Moore was wide open. He was out. There were other plays too, where like you got to just sometimes when you're in a situation, you got to say, okay, this is the play call. I'm gonna go to DJ Moore because he's our number 1 wide receiver, and we need a first down here. So situations like that. I mean, there were also situations where guys weren't necessarily open downfield, but you had a one-on-one situation. Throw it up. Maybe we saw, especially with the way that the NFL officiating is now. Throw it up. You're either going to complete the pass, it's going to be an incomplete, or it's a pass interference and you get a big gain. Like, take advantage of these
and
rules.
If it's a pick, it's all right.
It's a pick, it's a punt because you threw it, 40, 50 yards anyway. So, whatever. Take chances when you get one-on-one opportunities like that. So,
for sure. No, I mean, I don't think that there's any. I don't think there's any like misconceptions about it. Like Justin Fields needs a good game this week.
Yeah.
He needs a good game this week. He needs to instill some faith in these fans, or this season could really snowball quickly. Like we said, like if this game is a bad game and Justin Fields doesn't look good and the team doesn't look good, like we're week 2, we're not even in week 3, and a smart organization would start to say, we might be smart to not win any more games this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is a lot of gravity for a week 2 game against Tampa Bay, man.
I know. Yeah.
That's what happens if you come out and lay the egg that you do in week 1. You start to get on a short leash, and you got to show, hey, that you're part of the solution, you're part of the problem.
Yeah, it's not a situation with the Bengals. The Bengals laid an egg in week 1, but they are our playoff team that went to the Super Bowl a few years ago. Like that's when you're like, okay, whatever. Like that's when you don't overreact to week 1. When your offense was bad last year and it continues to be bad in week 1, is it really an overreaction? I don't know. It might just be what they are. So we need to see something in week 2. We need to see something in week 2. I don't think we can wait to week 3 to say, okay, that was a fluke then. So right now it's looking, I'm leaning towards 75% not a fluke, 25% maybe a fluke.
I would love it if it was a fluke.
Would be nice.
It hurts to see Kyler Gordon hurt.
Yeah, we should probably talk about that. Kyler Gordon going down. I thought he was playing well. He played well in the preseason. I thought I didn't watch him super closely in this game, but I thought he played all the corners really looked decent at least. So it does suck to lose him.
Honestly, I thought Tyreek Stevenson
and Jalen Johnson played good football, and I thought Eddie Jackson did too. Eddie Jackson, his first touchdown, that late dig. I remember thinking if the pass rush got there a half second earlier, Eddie's kind of in position because he's just crossing his face, and Eddie can turn and make a play on it if it's right there. But he gets that extra half a second where he can stride away from him, and he's pretty much untouched. I'm not saying that the coverage was perfect, but a lot of the issues that the Bears faced would have been remedied on defense with even just like an incrementally better pass rush.
Yeah, and I think part of that too on that play was I think he thought he had some help over the middle. I think Tremaine Edmonds was kind of caught out of position there, which is a whole nother conversation if we want to talk about our linebackers who didn't play very well, our big money linebackers. That was frustrating too. But yeah, I thought the cornerbacks played well. I thought Eddie Jackson played well. Jaquan Brisker, I didn't see a whole lot of, but hopefully we see something from him. But yeah, the linebackers, TJ Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds, played well against the run, I thought, for the most part. But yeah, in coverage,
I think
they were, especially Tremaine Edmonds. I thought Tremaine Edmonds played really well against the run, but in coverage, he was chasing guys out of his zone.
He verged on bad. He verged on bad. And why we went and got him was to be a coverage back.
Yep. And that play with Eddie Jackson is one. The other touchdown, the long Aaron Jones touchdown.
Crosses his face and almost just lets him go.
Yeah, well, TJ Edwards was the one who was actually in coverage, but I think he was playing outside leverage. He was expecting someone to be in the middle of the field.
Right.
And Edmonds was chasing a guy out of his zone. So I think that was kind of on him. But Edwards didn't play well in coverage either. So there are other ones too. So that was frustrating because those are things that aren't dependent on the defensive line. Like sometimes in run defense, like, okay, the defensive lineman wasn't in his gap and that messed up the linebacker, but coverage is independent of the defensive line. So that was, hopefully we need to see a lot more. I mean, Edmonds didn't play at all in preseason. He played just a few snaps in the last preseason game, was out a lot. So hopefully that was just shaking the rest off. And we get that back. But anyone else that we should talk about?
Tackles look good. Interior offensive line looked bad. Shuffling that when Kevin Jenkins get back will be helpful. Andrew Billings kind of impressed, to be honest. I thought
he was really good.
Strength. I thought he held his point of attack better than anyone else on the Bears defensive line.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, he played really well.
There have been a lot of veiled shots at Chase Claypool this week, and very well deserved. That's a guy that's going to be going to earn his second contract in the NFL. And honestly, if he doesn't kind of like start to like change his effort level, or at least change his effort level on like a day in, day out thing at practice, like this is a guy that's risking not getting himself a second contract.
I was just gonna say, if he plays like he did the rest of the year, like he did in week one, I wouldn't be surprised if he's not on an NFL team next year.
Seriously,
like he
needs a wake up call.
He wasn't even trying. His routes were lazy. Blocking, obviously, there was many examples of him just not blocking well, and like
he dropped two targets.
Yeah, you can live with that if you're making plays, but his routes were lazy. He's not making plays. He's not doing anything. So, man, that trade is looking really bad.
Oh my gosh!
I mean, I thought it was a bad trade at the time, just like an overpay. But I thought at least we get something out of him. I thought we'd get like, okay, well, yeah, we overpaid for him, but at least, hey, we got a receiver who's going to catch some passes. He hasn't done anything. That's
Chase Claypool is like an all-time athlete at my favorite position for my favorite professional football team, and he's from Canada, and he might be my least favorite person in the NFL. Like that.
Oh, man. I didn't think about that. I forgot he was Canadian. Yeah, that's tough.
No, it was. I tell you what, there is a chance that things conspired, and we happen to get some of the worst games we'll get on the year from some of our contributors. But they all seem to happen on a pretty important first Sunday of the year. So it's worrisome. It's not the end of the world. Like they can right the ship with the performance in Tampa Bay 100%. But by the same merit, this game is going to carry a lot of gravity because if they don't right the ship, a lot of really, really serious questions are going to start to have to be asked and answered by the Bears brash.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, if they start out up 0-2 and their offense looks like it did, you got to start. I mean, a lot of the blame is going to go on Justin Fields, and rightly so. But you also got to start looking at the coaching staff too. I mean, Luke Getsy is. I thought he did better than what my initial reaction, but I didn't think he did great. So he's going to be on the hot seat too. Eberflus too. I mean, you got a guy who is a defensive guy and kind of old school, and he comes in with his hits principle, and it's like, okay, whatever.
2
And
years
then
to build that defense,
2 years,
and it's bad.
yeah, and we're spending a lot of money on the defense, and it's still bad. And also the hits principle, like you talk all about effort and stuff like that, but then you trot out Chase Claypool there, who's just literally not trying. And it's like, okay, you can't have a double standard. Like if you have a guy like that who's not trying, you gotta bench him. You can't have this system in place and then not follow it. So I think that a lot of questions for a lot of people, and then questions on Ryan Poles too, if things continue the way it is. Questions kind of all around. So, I kind of went into this year thinking, it's going to still be a transition year, and we're going to roll everyone back next year. But if things continue, I think I wouldn't be surprised if they clean house after this year. I know the Bears are not, the McCaskies are not like that. They give people probably too long, and that might happen. But man, I don't know how you couldn't make some sort of change if things go the way they do. Maybe it's an offensive coordinator. Maybe you clean house, defensive coordinator. I don't know, but we'll see.
No, I mean, you got to remember Nagy. Nagy made the playoffs twice, and he ends up getting let go by the nature of there were times when the team came out and completely embarrassed himself and got run over in really important games. And if we see that effort that we saw week one throughout the rest of the year, I mean, that is evidence enough to say that this team isn't coached the way that they need to be. And whether or not you think that maybe he's the right man for the job, I think, that would be close to a fireable offense. Listen, it's all speculation at this point, and it's fair speculation because it couldn't really have gone as bad as it did week one. But it's a long season left. We need to win this game against the Bucs, but if we do, it could do a lot to getting this ship back on course.
For sure. Okay, I think we.
Anything else?
I think we covered everything. I don't know. I don't want to beat a dead horse here.
I tell you what, I'm so happy to hit record on this and be done and never speak about this game again.
I was just gonna say I'm a lot happier clicking end recording than I was clicking record. I'm done talking about this game. We're on to Tampa Bay, as Bill Belichick would say. So I think we'll try and go actual live this year, even if we get a bad one. Hopefully, I don't know. We'll see if we feel up with it, but I think we will. So we'll try to go live.
Bad one. Oh.
We just couldn't do it on Sunday. We couldn't do it. Like, let's just let this do.
But if it goes bad again, it going bad week one, like asks a lot of questions about what this roster. If it goes bad again, you almost have your answers.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll be live on Sunday after the game.
Yep.
If not, next week sometime. And we'll be tweeting out our thoughts now and then. Luke's going to tweet out that graph that he was talking about. I'm actually really excited to look at that. So make sure to follow him. Luke does not have enough Twitter followers for how good of a Twitter follow he is. So make sure to give him a follow.
Bears fan, and there's none of them out there right now.
Yeah, none of them. All right, we'll talk to everyone next week. Bear down.